I'm waiting for someone to pop in. That little eyeball. I don't know if you see an eyeball there. Can you see the counter there? There are two people here. It is time for Friday with Friends.
L'chaim.
That's me getting used to this system. So, Friday with Friends. We're here. We're live. I am here in New London, New Hampshire. And Robin, where are you?
I am in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. And you've lived in New York City pretty much your whole life, right? You were
No,
born there, right?
no.
No.
I feel like it sometimes. My dad was born in Brooklyn. My mom
Okay.
was born on the Lower East Side. And I moved here in 76 to go to acting school.
Oh,
So
how did that work out for you?
I didn't like it,
Really?
but I stuck in. Yeah. I didn't like it. I don't think it didn't work out the way I planned.
Uh huh.
I kind of learned more that I was not suited for the lifestyle and the emotional stuff.
Yes.
And it was pretty rough. I mean, I did moderately well. I found storytelling. So
Right.
it was like, what am I doing?
There you go.
Acting? I can go off and direct myself. I can go off and have somebody work with me.
I
They have
know.
to do it. They have to do it together with me. I
That's
get to have the eye.
right. And
And I like that. I mean,
you like
in,
having a director though, don't you? What?
yeah, it depends on who the director is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I became a director in between. I started 2
Oh
youth
really?
theaters. Yeah, one in New York City at the 92nd Street Y, the High
Huh.
Temple of Art, and seriously, and then I was at in Chicago at the Organic Theater, and in the summers, I'd do the Organic, and, the rest of the year,
Right.
I would do,
S- Did you like directing?
yeah. I mean, I like directing kids. I like directing plays that we wrote together.
Uh huh.
Oh my god, the last couple, someone actually wanted to buy it from me. It was a friend of mine who's a hot shit producer. Am I
Uh huh.
allowed to say shit?
I think so. You just did.
Okay,
It's
good.
okay.
Just wanna check it. You can blurb me later, but,
So we've only got 7 people peeping right now, so we're good.
he wanted to pick it up. Um,
As a
it was called The
show?
Secret, yeah, to make a movie of it. It was called The
Oh,
Secret, but I was I didn't know how those things worked, and I said no.
that's all right. Oh, Sarah DeBeer
Oh
just
my
joined us.
god. My
What?
computer is running out of time.
Do you mean time battery? You mean?
Battery, yeah. Hold on.
Uh,
Tommy? I am about to call the person who saves my tush or tuchis all the time. Tomas.
Tomas. I like that. So is everyone out there doing fine? I'm talking to my audience now. The audience,
Yeah.
our audience, because it's our audience. Okay, Robin's going to run away and see if she can find a power cord for her laptop before it dies. And I was actually on a call earlier with Laura Sims, trying to figure out stuff for the Hans Christian Andersen storytelling festival, which goes all summer long. And as we were chit chatting and everything, I ended up the power went out, all the lights went out, and the laptop died, and then the internet died, of course, because the router went out of power. So then I had to wait for the router to hook up, and this is like right before this show, and I'm trying to talk with Laura Sims and get her on the phone, and it was all a bit mad. So I think it's technologically challenged day today for both of us.
Well, and the other thing is sometime around now, we're supposed to have a tornado here in
No
Brooklyn.
way.
Yeah.
I got a weather alert this morning, and I was looking at my phone, and I was like, I'm not going to look at that because it's just going to tell me it's going to snow, and I don't want to know. So maybe we're going to get high winds as well. We've had a lot of snow, and the black fly today is there was black fly out a week ago. You know that black fly is the New Hampshire
That awful,
state
awful.
bird.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like this big. It's our state bird. They were out one day last week when it warmed up, and then they vanished. And I was like, yes, this is great. But today when I was walking Mo, they were out again, and they were just like biting. There was
Let
no
me introduce
skipping
my
it.
husband. He's my. Simon once thought I didn't have a husband. Tommy? Yeah. No, yeah, you met Simon. You met him earlier. But I want to
Long
introduce
time
you. I
ago.
wore a ring for you today. They can't see you, sweetheart.
So there's got to be we got to tell the people the story. So I didn't realize that Robin was married. She's such a free spirit and such a gregarious woman and just wonderful. And never saw a ring on her finger. And then she showed up at an event that she and I were both at. I'm not going to talk about the event, but Tom was there. Tomas was there,
Right.
and I was like, "You got a ring on? Did you get
Yeah,
married?" And she's like, "I've been married for like, hey Tom, how you doing?" And that's the first time we met, and I realized that Robin was married, which is great. It's nice to have know that your friends have got someone looking out for them, which is what I like.
Yeah. I also like that I get to be free spirited.
I know
You
that's
know, I
excellent. Yeah,
I can't imagine that disappearing. I think I've gotten worse, actually.
maybe who knows?
So before we get into storytelling, can I show you my books?
Yes. What books have you got?
Simon asked me what I wanted to talk about. He mentioned books. So what's happening in this pandemic, I'm really tired of my computer. Well, except when I Zoom. So here's the first one I bought. It's called The Happy Step Couple. I'm a stepmother, so we're not always happy as stepmothers. I know what you think about the stories, but none of them are true. Hey, Andy.
I love
But
Andy Davis.
I
He's such a
got
great guy.
that. I do. What's not to love?
I know, right?
Here's this. The New Kid by Jerry Craft. He's some up and coming,
Is that a graphic novel?
yeah, graphic novel, because I want to take one of my Nancy Drewinski
Uh
and
huh.
turn it into a graphic novel.
Nice.
So this woman who came to my show um, knows all these people and said, you should read him. Okay, Workers' Tales. You're going to appreciate this.
Ooh.
Anybody who knows me at all. Socialist fairy tales, fables, and allegories from Great Britain.
Ooh. Yeah,
It's
we're
pretty
all into
heavy.
that. Yeah, I bet. That's not going to be a light read.
No, it isn't. Oh, and here's another one. The woman that's helping me out, she wanted to interview me for a book she's writing. It's called, she wrote this called Bringing Down a President.
So is it Andrea or Elizabeth that you're working
It's
with?
both.
Oh,
Both
well,
of
that's
them are
cool.
writing this book together. It's a YA book, and it's really funny. Actually, it's delightful to read, and it's my favorite book to read because the book I love the most is this one, which is called A Good American Family.
Oh, there we go. And who wrote that? David
David
Marin
Moranis.
Moranis.
And he writes for the Washington Post. And this is the
Oh,
story about his father, how his father being called up before HUAC, how that affected their entire family,
huh. And that
which is very much like my story.
right. That's what I was
So,
about to say. It's kind of like
yeah.
Nancy
Nancy
Drewinski.
Drewinski,
Yes.
except
Try
without
saying
humor.
that 3 times when you're drunk.
Well, he does it without humor. I like to think I'm at least a little funny.
Oh no, you got a great sense of humor. That I tell you, when I saw that at Timpanogos, I had no idea. Every time I see something like that about some sort of I don't want to say like minority, but it's like I knew about the
Minority.
McCarthy.
We're a
Right,
minority.
right, right. But I knew about the McCarthy period, but I didn't know like how outrageous it was,
Mm.
and how because you always hear about the music industry, not the music, the movie industry being like hit really hard, but you never really heard about like the other stuff that was going on, and for me that was really eye opening, absolutely eye opening. I had no idea. I mean,
Well, the movie.
I didn't know the background of the story. I knew it was about you, and I knew it was a little bit about the McCarthy period, but when I heard it, it was just like, oh my god, I know so little about this stuff.
So, just so you guys know, this is Nancy Drewinski and the Search for the Missing Letter. And it's really about me trying to find proof. That's what I realized at some point, trying to find proof that that my father had been Well, he actually had once been called before the FBI, but Joseph McCarthy, in the early 1950s, investigated all the Jewish scientists who worked at Fort Monmouth, and my dad was one of them, and threw their lives for 3 years into crazy insanity where they were probed and pushed and taken off projects and given yellow badges to wear, et cetera, et cetera. So
That's as bad
it
as
had been, nobody
Nazism.
talks about it.
Yeah, right.
I only know one person from those days who said his father took him out one day and they sat on a pile of logs because this is a small town in New Jersey
Hmm.
and they talked about it, but that was it.
Wow,
So,
amazing.
anyway,
Yeah, it's there are lots of dark places in history.
oh, yeah.
I didn't realize. It's again, it's what you taught in school. And one of the things that happened to me when I was in school was that we never talked about how the Irish were treated when they came over after the famine. That was never taught.
Right.
And then, I moved over to the States and I'm living here for like, I don't know how many years. And I went back and visited my dad in Swansea. And he's driving us through town and he's got the radio on. And it's, in the middle of a program. I'm like, what the heck is this about? And there's rioting and these people being dragged out of their houses. And I was like, is this about South Africa or something? He's like, no, this is about London and the Irish immigrants. And I was just like, you are kidding me. And so that sent me back. When I got back home, back here, I started, looking into that to find out about it because I had no idea how badly I mean, I knew that they were not treated well, but I didn't realize that they were treated as badly as the Scots up in their own homeland when they were burnt out of their houses, when the lords decided, oh no, we're not making enough money off the tenements, so we're going to raise sheep, so we have to burn the tenements out, which is
Yep.
basically what they did. It's like, this is horrible. Yeah, the English and the British, they're just, wow.
And they're all of
Sorry
them.
to call
Face it.
myself one.
I know. Yeah. I'll have a cup of tea on that. The heck with that. I am to life.
To life, yes. So you surviving the pandemic all right?
We're okay down here. I'm trying not to enjoy myself too much. I mean, there's a big part of me I was born under the sign of Cancer. Let's put
Okay.
it that way. It's a reclusive sign. So even though
Yeah.
my rising is Leo, which makes me ridiculously outspoken
Yeah.
and hair person, hair girl, hmm, my hair changes every day. And wants to be the center of attention, the core,
Your
and
hair
and I
does?
have, yeah. Oh, did you notice? And my rising is, the bull, Aries, or not Aries, the
No,
one that
Taurus.
Taurus, which
Taurus, yeah.
means I'm hard headed. Don't get in my way. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Well, there's two of those,
Um,
isn't there? There's Capricorn as well. So here's the
yeah.
funny thing. I'm Leo on the cusp of Cancer. So I like to party, but I like to do it at home.
And I like to sit and read.
There you go. There you go. So Robin, you got a story you want to share with us?
I have a couple stories, and I'm just
Excellent.
praying I don't forget it. Just because I haven't told it in a while, and I meant to get to it, but I'm doing some interesting work during the pandemic, and I'll just say I teach seniors storytelling, and I love it. And the biggest thing that happens is now I'm doing conference calls.
Oh,
So I have conference calls with 15 people on each call,
that's kind of
but it's
crazy.
wonderful.
Well, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
So
So
Mo
anyway,
Mo Reynolds made a comment. She said everyone that had bagpipes. It's like true. We did. we got we hit the Irish. We hit the Welsh didn't have bagpipes, but the Welsh weren't actually hit. Wales was like one of the only places where the English had a hard time getting into because of the marshlands and the mountains and
really,
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
how did they do? Did they make it
I don't
through?
know. I mean, they eventually overcame it and kind of colonialized it. But they didn't have bagpipes. They had harps, which when I was a kid I thought was just as bad.
Was what?
Was
Embarrassing?
just as bad. No,
Are
I
you
because
are
it's
you
all like nice
Welsh?
and I don't know. My grandfather's last name was Williams, but he was from up north of England. But he was on the east side, so it could be that some of the family at some point came from Wales with a name like Williams. Um, there is Irish in the family from my dad's side.
Mm.
So my great grandparents came from Ireland, presumably when the famine was going on or something like that. But yeah, it does seem that the British had a certain dislike for the bagpipes. Anyway, your story.
Anyway, so when I was growing up, my mother did not tell stories. She she would tell stories about her family sometimes, which nobody listened to, which is unfortunate. But because now I've listened to a few, and I wish I knew more. But what she did was she read, and this is what she read us: Carl
Oh,
Sandburg, the Rutabaga stories.
oh, and that
And
one's
as I
illustrated by Michael Haig.
yeah, oh, is that amazing?
Ah, yes, it is. I like Michael Haig's work.
Oh,
I
okay. Well,
have The
then
Hobbit, which he illustrated. But anyway, go on. Your story.
anyway, so that's what she did. And I'd forgotten all about him until I went into acting school where I had a moderate time, but learned a lot, made some friends, which is a good thing. But when I went to speech class, which is where you learn how to handle language, you worked with Shakespeare, of course. Sometimes you work with foreign languages, of course. We worked with Irish a lot. Irish accents. But we also worked with the Rutabaga stories because they have the most complicated sentences. So I'm going to push this back and I'm just going to put my book here just in case I forget it, but I'm going to tell it right to you, my friend. Oh, wait,
Sounds good.
my friendly
Oh,
audience.
there you go.
So this one is called How Bimbo the Snip's Thumb Stuck to His Nose When the Wind Changed. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a boy who lived in the village of Liver and Onions named Bimbo the Snip. He never did anything his mother and father told him to do or told him not to do. So one day, his father, Bevo the Hike, came home and he found Bimbo the Snip sitting on the front steps with his thumb fastened to his nose, wiggling his fingers at everyone passing by. He looked at his son, and his son looked at him and said, I can't take my thumb away from my nose because when I stuck my thumb to my nose and wiggled the fingers at the fishmonger, the wind changed. And it was just like Mama said. When the wind changed, the thumb would stay fastened to your nose and not come off. Beaver the Hike took hold of that thumb and he pulled. He tied a clothesline rope around it and pulled. He pushed against it with his foot and all his might. But no matter what he did, that thumb stuck fast and the finger dangled from the nose of Bimbo the Snip. Well, Beaver the Hike sent for the ward alderman. Ward alderman sent for the barn boss of the street cleaning department, and the barn boss of the street cleaning department sent for the head vaccinator of the vaccination bureau, and the head vaccinator of the vaccination bureau of the health department. He sent for the big main fixer of the weather from the weather bureau, who knew the ins and the outs of the weather and the weather changing. And the big main fixer of the Weather Bureau said, now, if you hit that thumb 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it'll come off. You need a policeman's club to do it. So Beaver the Hike went to the street corner where there was a policeman standing right there with a whistle, whistling the wagons and cars which way they should be going. And he said to him, the wind changed and my son, Bimbo the Snip, has his thumb fastened to his nose, and it won't come off until it is hit 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times with the end of a policeman's club. And the traffic policeman looked at him and said, oh, well, I can't help you unless you get a monkey to come take my place, standing on the corner, telling the wagons and cars which way to go, which way to go, which way to go. So Beaver the Hike went to the zoo And he went to a monkey in the zoo and he said to him, the wind changed, and my son, Beaver the Hike, his thumb is fastened to his nose, and it won't come off until it's hit 6 times. 1, 2, 3,
Three,
4,
four,
5,
five,
6
six.
times with the end of a traffic policeman's club. But the traffic policeman can't leave his place on the corner until he gets a monkey to come and take his place, standing there, telling the wagons and cars, which way to go, which way to go. And the monkey said, well, I can't help you at all. Well, I could if you get me a ladder with a whistle on it, and then I could climb up and be seen, and I could whistle the wagons and cars. Which way to go? Which way to go? So, Bevo the Hike looked and looked, and he searched and he searched, and he asked and he asked, and he walked until his eyes and his head and his feet and his tummy and his whole body were tired from top to bottom. And that's when he saw an old widow woman whose husband had been killed in a sewer explosion when he was digging the sewer ditches. And she was carrying a bundle of picked up kindling on her back because she didn't have enough money to buy coal. He said to her, you've got your problems, but so do I. You've got a bundle on your back and everyone can see it. I have a bundle in my heart and no one can see it. The old woman said, oh, Sonny, tell me your problems. So he told her. And she said, well, in the next block, in the next block, there is an umbrella handle maker. And he has a tall, very tall ladder, which he uses when he makes long, even longer umbrella handles. And there is a whistle on it for him to whistle. So Bevo the Hike thanked her, and he went around the corner and he explained the whole thing to the umbrella handle maker. And the umbrella handle maker looked at him and said, well, tonight I have a very, very tall umbrella to make with a long handle. And I will need my ladder to climb up and the whistle to be whistling. But if you bring it back by tonight, you can have it. Bevo promised. And so he ran to get the monkey. He took the monkey to where the policeman was. The monkey climbed up with his whistle in his mouth, and he took the policeman back to his house, where his son was still sitting on the front steps, thumb fastened to his nose, wiggling his fingers at everybody passing by. That traffic policeman, he raised his thumb club just like that. And he hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the thumb stuck fast. 6. And it came loose. Yay. Oh, Bevo the Hike thanked the traffic policeman. He went with the traffic policeman and he thanked the monkey. Then he took the ladder with the whistle in it and he took it to the umbrella handle maker and he thanked him. And that night when he got home and Bimbo the Snip was all tucked into bed, all sweet and cute and cozy, he smiled at him and Bimbo the Snip said, I promise I will be careful. Really. The next time I stick my thumb to my nose and wiggle my fingers when the wind changes. The end.
Nice. Ta-da!
Go out and get them.
I'm gonna have to. I picked up. I saw a couple of the because I listened to Carl Sandburg, his music, and I was a big fan of Dan Zayn. Still, am a big fan of Dan Zayn. Just don't listen
Me
to it now. The kids
too.
just don't listen to it as much as now the kids are bigger. But I like his stuff a lot, and so he introduced me to Carl Sandburg, and I listened to his music, and I was
Who,
at
by
the
the way, excuse me, is a Brooklyn boy.
yes.
Just
Who
want to
is
put that out.
Dan Zayn's?
Hmm.
No, he's not. He's born in New Hampshire.
Well, he may have been born in New Hampshire, but he lives in Brooklyn.
He
Thank you.
does live in Brooklyn, in one of the brown houses. I know.
You know,
I haven't
everybody
been there.
comes to Brooklyn sooner or later. I
I've
hope
only
you
been to
forgive me,
visit.
people all around the world and country and everything. I'm sorry. I've become an awful New Yorker. Never planned it.
That's all right. We all come an awful something at some point, right? But
If we're
yeah,
lucky.
and I found the Rudebaker stories, 2 volumes of books,
Hmm.
and I realized that now I've heard one, I'm gonna have to read them because that was excellent. And Sarah, she says, such fun, love Rudebaker stories, grew up hearing them and almost told with and also told with enormous delight in the language. Gold, buckskin, witcher, pony, pony,
Oh, hold
huckabuck.
on.
Oh, hang
I
on,
know.
huckabuck. I know that.
So, Sarah, do you know my other? Well, this was the one my mom loved the most, which was. Sorry, I love this book so much.
Apparently,
I couldn't believe how much I loved it until I tried to
but it
tell
doesn't have
them.
all the. It's just a selection of the Rudebaker stories, I imagine, based on the
No, there are
sizes.
two books, and then there's a third
Oh,
one.
this.
So,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so how they bring back the village of cream puffs when the wind blows it away.
You gonna read this one to us?
No, I hadn't planned on it. I could.
Or should we do one? Do you want to do? Do you want? We were talking about doing one together, but then you were like, I don't know that story, so.
Well, I don't know that. So, do you know? Do you have a book? Why don't we pull it out and do it together?
Well, it's up in the attic, so
Oh, forget it. Okay.
that
Well, let's
wouldn't
do
work.
the story together. I will do it. And you know what? If you call me,
Uh huh.
Simon and Sarah, if you call, we could do. I would love to. We could do a little festival of Carl Sandburg.
That would be fun. We could do
If you
that.
get my CD, which no, but I never talk about, um, is my CD has 2 Carl Sandburg stories on it,
Oh. So how does the copyright
and I
work
have
on that?
that is the first book, as far as I know. No,
Mm-hmm.
the first book is in the public domain.
Ah,
Wouldn't that be a fun festival to have?
it would. So I think what we should do is I'm going to get those 2 books out of the attic that I've got and start reading through them. Papa Joe says hi. I'll definitely get in touch
Who
with
says hi?
Papa Joe. Well, he didn't. He actually said love you.
Hey, Papa Joe, I love you. He knows that. I've
Um,
always had a crush on him.
yeah, he's a good guy.
Marriage is nothing. You can have crushes all you want, especially good guys.
Yeah, he's one of the best guys ever. He's a sweetheart. I love that man to
He
death.
is.
Yeah.
Wonderful storyteller and
Yes.
wonderful man, which seems to go together
It does. It does.
sometimes.
He is so well loved in this state. It's like unbelievable. He's just great. He's just a great guy.
And in
Oh, and
Brooklyn.
Carol
Don't forget
Birch
that.
apparently tells them. So maybe
Yeah.
we could do something like this, but it would be all of us. And we could read some of the Carl Sandburg stories. We could pick one and do a story each,
I love that.
just for shits and giggles.
Now, I don't know. There's another one I love. In the second one, it's about something I know nothing about. It's about baseball.
Okay, that's all right. I don't know anything about that either.
Okay, I know
I'm
we're going to do
British. I
something,
don't
but
even know anything about cricket. So there you go.
so yeah. What is this one called? I mean, I used to go to them.
I,
Oh,
I've
I
been
love
to a
this
few,
one.
I've been to a few. So I got to apologize to Mo Reynolds because I said it was bagpipes, but it wasn't bagpipes. It was baggage. But I didn't have my glasses on, so I was kind of like squinting at it. My brain made up the word for me.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
my
we should.
glasses.
I think that would be kind of fun thing to do.
I think that would be great. Oh, this is I love this one. It's so dorky for me. how the big ball game between the hot grounders and the grandstanders was a hot game.
All right, so you want to take it away? You want to read it?
No, because I haven't told it in a million years.
Oh,
Do I have time to tell a story? I thought I'd tell a story about my mom.
yeah, do that, do that. I'd love to do that. I'd love
Okay.
to
Or
hear
do
you
you
do that.
want to tell the story together?
No, I don't. That's all right. No, this is about
Okay.
you. It's not about me.
Okay. So my mom grew up on the Lower East Side. She was the daughter of Romanian immigrants. Um, and they owned a milk bar, is what my mom called it. But today I know nobody knows what a milk bar is, but they do know dairy restaurants. So
I do. I know what
um,
a milk bar is.
you do?
Yeah, there
Like a
was one in.
place where you go and everything is.
You have milkshakes and stuff. It was, or at least the milk bar in Worcester. It was like a diner type thing, but it wasn't really a diner. They called it the Miramar Milk Bar, and you go there and you get sodas and
Ah,
milkshakes and fries and stuff.
that
Anyway,
sounds like not a diner, but yeah,
anyway,
a
sorry.
counter service. No, well, the thing with this was had to do with being Jewish, which is, some restaurants were all meat and some restaurants were all milk, and the different things you could eat. So my mom and I. So my mom, they lived above, like one floor above their restaurant. Somehow before the depression hit, my grandpa made a lot of money, I think, in the stock market. And he bought a building and they set themselves up in a little shop, a
Huh.
restaurant. My grandma would do the cooking and my grandpa ran it and sat there and everybody loved him. He was like the mayor of First Avenue. And if you know New York, it's First Avenue between 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th, somewhere between there. And after they moved out, it became a Ukrainian butcher shop, but that's a whole other thing. So my mom, just like me, loved to eat. And my mom, just like me, loves sweet. And my mom, just like me, loves maraschino cherries. But of course, in the old days, maraschino cherries wasn't just full of red, syrupy liquid, sugar and water and a little, color and whatever, but it was booze. I mean, it was
Ah.
maraschino, some kind of liqueur. So my mom would come home from school every day and she would say to her mother, "Oh, I did a great job in school, mom. I got an A and I got an A and I got an A and I was elected to be president of the class. Do you think I could have a maraschino cherry?" Now the maraschino cherries in my grandparents' milk bar were used on all the amazing desserts that my grandmother would make. I mean, all things that you could make with milk. So it'd be blintzes and Danish and whatever all the Romanian stuff was. Oh, and cheesecake. And apparently even Trotsky used to come in there. Apparently Trotsky loved my grandma's or Bubby's cheesecake. Well,
Ah.
the thing was that the maraschino cherries were dear. They cost a lot of money. And my grandmother was, I wouldn't say she was cheap, she was wise. And every time my mom would ask, she'd say, "No, darling. No, I'm sorry. These are for the guests, for the patrons. You go upstairs and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. But no, you may not have maraschino cherries. It's just for the patrons. When you buy yourself a piece of cheesecake, then you can have one. If it's your birthday." And of course, birthdays only come once a year. So one day a year, she get one maraschino cherry. Well, my mom was a crafty little girl. I mean, she knew her way around. Let's put it this way. And so one time when she was about 8, 9, maybe 10, she came home and she went through the same thing she always went through. "Mama, mama, please. Papa, she won't let me have it. Can I have it? I got A's. I wrote a poem that's going to be printed in the school paper. Oh, mama, please, please, I have one." And my grandma said the same thing. "No, no, Anna, Her name was Anne. Annalie, no, you can't have it. Go upstairs, do what you're supposed. Don't ask Papa. Papa does whatever you ask him to do, but no, I'm in charge here. You go up, go up, go up. So my mother would go up. Well, one day she came home and she'd had a really good day. And because, even though they owned the restaurant, they were poor. They didn't have the money for streetcars, or she had to walk to school and walk back and walk to her friends and walk back. And they definitely didn't have money to buy sweets. Sometimes one of her friends or she would steal something off a vendor, but not often because she was an honest girl. She came in and she really wanted a cherry. How awful could that be, Mama? Get up, get up. I don't want to hear from you. Those are for the patrons, they're for the guests. They're not for little girls like you. So my mother went up and she came down for dinner. She knew better than to ask her mother again. She went back up. Now, I don't know if you know how these New York buildings are. It was a tenement building and they were in a railroad flat. And what that basically means is there's one room in the front and it goes woo like that. And you go through another room and then you go through another room and then you go through the kitchen. And of course, the bathrooms in the hallway where you have to share it with whoever else is living on the same floor, which could be as many as 3 other families. It could be one other
Oh,
family. So, anyway, my mom goes to bed. And what that means going to bed is she pulls out her blankets and her sheets and she puts it on the couch and she pulls it over her and she lies down looking at the stars, listening to the vendors closing up and the mothers and fathers calling for their children in Yiddish and Ukrainian and German and Italian, in Romanian, in Russian. And she'd hear the clank, clank of carts being locked up. She heard the clank, clank of her family restaurant being locked up. And her parents came up arguing as they always did about money and not having enough and her behavior and her brothers and sisters and arguing. That's all they seemed to do. And then they went to the back. Their bedroom was the room right before the kitchen. And they argued a little. They went to sleep. And my mother had started dreaming about maraschino cherries. She woke up. She could taste one in her mouth, that sweet syrup. Well, she didn't know it was liqueur, but oh, she liked it a lot. And she had visions of those little red balls round and round and round her head. And finally, she just threw off her covers and she knew what she was going to do. The couch that she slept on was right by the window that went out to the street. And if you know tenement buildings, they have fire escapes that go zigzagging down until they reach the street. So my mom opened the window. Because in those days, nobody locked windows. She just pulled it up. She heard her dad snoring. She stuck an arm and she got her body, took us out the window. She went down as fast as she could and she jumped down onto the ground and she looked. And even though the gates were locked, the window wasn't. And she pried that window open. I don't know how she did it. Maybe she jumped back on the fire escape. Maybe there was some kind of can or something that she stood on, but she got stood on something and then she put it and she maneuvered her whole body into the restaurant and fell down on the ground. She didn't care. She just knew she was exactly where she needed to be. And it didn't matter that it was dark because the street lights came right in. So she knew where she was going to go. But of course, this was her place. She'd been here since she was a baby. So she knew where everything was. And she walked over to the counter. She pulled up a chair. She stood on the chair. She heard a sound, but then she realized it was just the rats. She went up, and she stood on that chair and she reached up and she pulled down a jar this big. Now, if you've ever gone to a restaurant supply place, you get maraschino cherries, and it'd be about this, but I don't know, maybe $10. It was a lot more than that, and because it had liqueur in it. She put it down. So for those days, maybe it was 20. That was a lot of money. And she she screwed it off. She reached in. She was only going to take one. She was an honest kid. Maybe she could have two or three. Oh, that was so good. And she picked up the jar and she just. And that was it. She went right in. Her hands dove in to that jar, one right after another, smashing them into her mouth. In and smash and smash. And she went through the whole jar. However long it took, she did not care. She was in heaven and a little dizzy, so she really cared about nothing. And she took that jar and drank the rest of it, pushed the jar aside, and then it fell on the ground and it broke. And now she knew she was in trouble. But I think she was too drunk to notice. So she kind of rushed the pieces over to the side. Said, well, I better get out of here. She looks down at her nightgown. It was covered in red, as in red juice from the maraschino cherries, which in those days were colored by dye and liquor. And she climbed up again. I don't know how she did it, onto the table, and then she went in to the window. She pulled it down because just in case anybody noticed, they didn't want to have an open window, for goodness sake. And she climbed up the fire escape, trying not to make noise, which for a little drunk 10-year-old, she did pretty well. And she stuck her feet through. Both feet landed on the bed. She pulled her body through. And just as her mother was coming to see what the racket was, she threw up. And all the cherries and all the juice and everything came spilling out of her mouth. Now, this were the old days, and maybe some of you have experienced this in your life. My grandmother looked at her nightgown, and looked at those cherries. And she went to her husband. She took the belt out of his pants and started whipping my mother, until she was tired. Then she said, clean it up. Now, girl, now. And that was it. They never spoke of it. Wow. You can believe my mother never asked for a maraschino cherry again. And the truth is that even though in my home we had little jars of it, she never ate one ever again.
Wow, that's a good story. That's a really good story. I wasn't expecting the ending, that's for sure. I
Mhm.
mean, the drunk bit, yeah, I was expecting that, but the
Ah,
belt, oh,
yeah.
that's yeah, different
My
times.
grandmother. The story is that everybody got out of that house as fast as they could.
Yeah.
They got married and then they got divorced. They just got
They saw the first marriage as a temporary fix
just to
on the
get out
real
of that.
issue.
Except my mother.
Oh, really? She stayed out?
She stayed there. She was a freewheeling woman, kind of like me.
Oh, there you go. So I did notice that a message came up from Robin
Robin
Schulte.
Schulte.
Yeah, there's a great old recording. It's not that old. Sandberg out loud, Carol Birch, Bill Harley, Angela Lloyd tell rutabaga stories with David Holt doing music.
I'd
And in
heard
fact,
it.
yeah, in fact, I've interviewed Bill Harley and Len Cabral together for my Conversations with Storyteller podcast, and he talks about that
Mm.
actually a little bit because and then Linda Schuyler Ford,
Hi, Linda
Skylar,
Schuyler Ford.
she said
Yo,
Robin
yo,
Schulte,
yo.
yes, yeah, right, great recommendation. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to look at those books, and I'll probably have to seek out the after I've read some of the stories, I'll have to seek out Bill Harley's thing because I like Bill Harley, and I can see where he gets his crazy kid stories now from. Obviously those were an inspiration to him. What have you got there?
This was the original one.
Oh,
And this was the original, I believe those are the original um, illustrations, which I'm
oh,
very, very, these are the ones I got out of, I had one, these might have been my acting school copies,
oh, there you go.
actually.
Yeah, mine are really cheap paperback thingies.
Yeah,
They
just
don't
like
look as
that.
fancy as that.
I love
Yellowing
them.
paper that's getting brittle and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like, oh.
So, Robert, I think we should probably end up
I've had
take
so much
take
fun.
taking off now because you and I we're going to be doing something else in a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because what day is it today?
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I don't get to introduce you because I'd have a lot of things to say. But I promised Sheila that I would stick to her script.
Thank you.
Well, don't worry, I'm not introducing you.
No,
She
you're
is, so
not.
she will cavell. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
I would cavell.
Excellent. So, what are we doing later on today? We are doing, thank God, it's Friday stories.
Mhm.
And they start at 4 o'clock.
They start at 4, and you're at 4, and I don't come
Mm-hmm.
around until 6.
Yeah, so
So
you can go and have a little nap. I'm going to go and change this shirt because this shirt is not a good shirt to wear. Hey, oh, wow. Carolyn Stearns is here.
I love my girl, Carolyn.
Hi, Simon, Robin. Two favorite peeps in one place. I know, it doesn't happen
We
very
are
often, does
so
it?
cool. Who else is here?
Um,
Aw,
we got Sarah De Beer and Skylar and Robin
hi,
Schulte
Robin, my other Robin.
and Papa Joe. I don't know if he's
Sarah,
still there.
Andy, Papa Joe.
Here's Crow. She's here.
Hi, Crow.
And Mo, she might have gone. I don't know. She's busy with kids and stuff. And Andy, he might not be here. He's got stuff
Mm,
to do. And then you and me. So
and
it's a
you and
small but
me.
comfortable crowd. Well, those are the people that have commented. I don't know if there are other people here, but
Is this something, are you going to, do you publish this where I could
yeah.
post
So
it?
yes, so it's gone live on both Facebook and YouTube, and
Woo!
it should have recorded. So what I can do is I can
Good.
actually send you the recording, and you can put it wherever you like, including on your website.
I feel so lucky to any time I spend with a man who thought I wasn't married. No, I really enjoy all my time with you. You're very funny and you're very talented and you're
Well,
adorable.
I enjoy
So,
your company as well. It's all. I don't think we've ever not had fun together, so I
no,
like
we
that.
could get into a lot of trouble if we tried.
Yes, but we're not going to do that. We're
No,
not going
we're
to
not going to do that.
try. We're not going to
I'm
do
too old.
anything. Oh, and Russell Humphrey is here too. Hi,
Who's
Russell.
Russell? Hi.
Well, so
All right,
hungry.
my darlings.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're
Mwah.
very welcome. Mwah. Back to you too. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll
And
see
you too.
you
I'll see you
later.
later. I am going to
Yes.
tune in for you.
Okay. And I'm going to tune in for some of the other stuff later on in the evening as well. So I'll probably see you as well.
Oh,
So
definitely.
thank you so much indeed, Robin. I really appreciate your spending the time to do this. Totes, totes, totes. And for those of you that want to know what Robin, where you can find Robin, you can find her at nancydruinsky.com. And what was that other website that you mentioned, Robin?
Oh, so my website is down for the most part because it's being rewritten, but it's Bady House, BADYHOUSE, storytellingconcert.com. One
That's
word.
that's quite short.
Hmm.
All right, Robin, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this with us and entertaining everyone for me and for them and for everyone.
It's our job, right?
It is.
Oh,
It
thank
is
you
our
so
job.
much, Simon, for having me. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
It's a pleasure seeing you too.
Bye.
Bye.